What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports. You're watching our college football channel. We continue with our 2023 predictions. Penn State is up next, a team with a lot of hype coming into this season. You see, the FPI has them right there around 9-3, 9.3 and 2.7, but closer to 10-2 than 8-4. Athlon has them at 10-2. The over/under is at 9.5. So that tells me that the most likely record for Penn State is going to be 9-3 or 10-2. At least that's what Vegas thinks, and it all pretty much lines up here. I'll tell you what, though, I think it's more likely that this team goes 11-1 than 9-3. I think 10-2 is a good spot right in the middle there. But I would be surprised if this team lost more than 2 games. They're going to be really good. You look at this roster. Now, it does all start at the quarterback position. Drew Aller steps in. Had a chance to sit back last year behind Sean Clifford. And obviously a more talented player. That's what we hear. We haven't really seen a whole lot from him on the field. But if he goes out there and can be a star quarterback like some people expect him to be, Penn State can win a national championship. If he goes out and struggles and he makes a lot of young freshman mistakes, things like that, this team, maybe they don't get to 10 or 11 wins. Maybe they are more of a 9-3 team. I think it really starts with him. You look at the roster around him, loaded at running back, probably the best running back duo, or one of the top running back duos in the country, I should say. Not the best. I think there are some, definitely Michigan's probably at number 1, but there are some really good duos this year, but they're one of those top ones. Receivers, pretty good. They don't necessarily have the most talented, deepest group of wide receivers, but they've got plenty of weapons. Tight end position as well. Offensive line looks strong. Defense from top to bottom, really no weaknesses there. This is going to be a really, really good team. And they're in the group with Ohio State and Michigan. It's Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and then the rest of the Big Ten. That's how I view it. Can they win 1 or 2 of the games against those 2 teams? That's ultimately what's going to decide how the season goes for Penn State. So let's look at the schedule. They'll open up with West Virginia. Home game. You know, this is a West Virginia team that is not expected to do a whole lot this year. I don't think they're going to be great, but it's a Power 5 matchup. It's a non-conference matchup here. First game of the season. I don't think Penn State's going to go out there and beat them by 30 points, but I do think they'll win fairly comfortably, maybe a 14 to 17 point win. It's not going to be an easy win in my opinion, but I do think Penn State's clearly the better team, a lot more talent on their roster, and they'll win it by at least a couple of touchdowns. And then I think they beat Delaware as well, so they get off to a 2-0 start. Next game is on the road at Illinois. Expect probably a low-scoring game here. Remember a couple of years ago when Illinois upset Penn State. This is going to be a very solid Illinois team, and I don't think that this is going to be an easy win for Penn State either. They'll probably have to fight in this game really hard, because Illinois is a scrappy team. Again, is going to play really hard, and I expect this could be a close game. Ultimately, if Drew Aller can step in there and make some big plays for this offense when they need them, they should win. If he struggles, again, if he throws a couple of interceptions, or can't convert some big third downs in this game, Illinois has a chance to pull off the upset, but I'm going to say Penn State does take care of business, go on the road and win. Next game is Iowa on the 23rd. Iowa's an interesting team with Cade McNamara now at quarterback. Some people think that their offense is just suddenly going to be a lot better. I don't think it's really going to change a whole lot, but you do expect some improvement with this offense when you look at what they have coming back and what he has around him, especially at that tight end position. So I think Iowa's going to be a pretty good team, but I don't see Iowa going into Penn State and winning. I think Penn State will win by, we'll say 10 points, somewhere in that range. They get the win over Iowa and get to a 4-0 start before playing Northwestern on the road. Northwestern, it's going to be a well-coached team, that, but they just don't have the talent. It's just not an even matchup at all. Penn State, a much more talented team. They should be able to go in there and take care of business on the road and win that one fairly easily. I think UMass will also be an easy win. And it's weird that they get their bye week between Northwestern and UMass, right before playing UMass. So they're probably going to be preparing for Ohio State really for an extra week. They'll be using the bye week to prepare for Ohio State, and then they'll also use the UMass week. So I expect them to have a lot of time to prepare for Ohio State. It wouldn't shock me if they came out and didn't look great against UMass, because if they do, in fact, prepare for Ohio State all week, maybe that game is somewhat, it's not going to be close. It's going to be a blowout. So I think they win that game 6-0, and then Ohio State here on the 21st on the road. Penn State played them tough last year. That was a game that was pretty close. That was at Penn State, though. And you worry about, and I'm guilty of this. I've been saying, look, Ohio State's got a new quarterback, Kyle McCord. How is he going to play in this offense or whatever? But I haven't really treated Penn State the same way with Drew Aller, just because he was such a highly touted recruit, and you keep hearing great things about him. But really, they're in the same situation at quarterback. So I don't think that's really an advantage for Penn State. And when you look at the rosters, they're pretty even. I think Ohio State has a little bit better roster because of probably their wide receivers, but maybe Penn State has a better secondary. It's going to be a great matchup, but I just don't see Penn State winning this game on the road. I think Ohio State playing at home will play really well. They'll win, but I think it'll be a close one. I think it's probably a one-score game, but I'm going to take the Buckeyes. So Ohio State falls, or Penn State, I should say, falls to 6-1. They play Indiana after that on the 28th. You worry about a hangover after a tough loss, maybe a slow start, but a good thing is they're going to be playing at home. They'll get it together. They'll win big here over Indiana and improve to 7-1. Then they'll play Maryland on the road right before Michigan. So this is that trap game. It's got all the ingredients on the road right before a huge game. I think Penn State probably has to fight all for 4 quarters in this game. I don't expect them to win big. I think it'll be a pretty close game, but I do think they have enough to beat Maryland. They're just the better team, and that'll get them to 8-1. Then they'll play Michigan on the 11th at home. You go back to last year, Michigan absolutely dominated that game. It shocked a lot of people. This year, I don't expect that to be the case. I think Penn State will play much, much better. They're playing at home, but I still just think Michigan is the best team in the Big Ten. I still think they're better than Penn State. I think they're able to overcome the road environment. J.J. McCarthy, he's a veteran now, especially by this point in the season. I think Michigan gets it done. It's a close game, but they find a way to win on the road. And then Penn State will then go to face Rutgers on the 18th. Home game should be an easy win. Again, you worry about a letdown after a loss. I don't think that's going to really matter, though. Rutgers not going to be very good. I think Penn State will roll in that game. Then you've got Michigan State at the end of the season. Probably going to be a desperate Michigan State team. Maybe a Michigan State team playing to try to get to a bowl game. Who knows how all that's going to play out. You're playing on the road. This is maybe a game that just is going to mean a lot more to Michigan State after Penn State's already lost a couple of games. And so you could see this one maybe being an upset alert trap type game. I wouldn't call it a trap game because they don't have a game the next week, but it's just one that concerns me a little bit if I'm a Penn State fan. That can be a tough place to play. And so I think this will be a tough, hard-fought game. Again, though, I just think Penn State is clearly the better team. They're in that top tier of the Big Ten with Ohio State and Michigan, and I think their talent will be enough to get it done on the road, but a close win. So I think they do. I think they finished 10-2, but I think they'll have some close games. Illinois, Iowa should be pretty close. Maryland, Michigan State. So you're talking about 4 games in there that may be pretty close wins for them. And again, if things go bad, if you have some turnovers, penalties, things, you just don't play your best, then you could see them losing one of those games and going 9-3. But I could also see them beating Ohio State or Michigan. They could win one of those two. So 11-1 is possible. Again, 9-3 is possible. I'm going to go right there in the middle at 10-2. Give me your predictions for Penn State down in the comments below.